Welcome to Ask the Expert with noted radio host Steve Sleeper. Each week, Steve interviews entrepreneurs and professionals and shares their intriguing stories of success and service. Now, here's radio veteran Steve Sleeper.
And welcome to another edition of Ask the Expert. Our guest today is Noel Bagwell with Executive Legal Professionals in Nashville, Tennessee. How you doing today, Noel?
Doing great. Thanks, Steve.
Good. Hey, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm originally from Tennessee, but I went to law school at Cumberland School of Law at Samford University in Birmingham, Alabama. I live in Nashville now, and I've started Executive Legal Professionals back at the beginning of 2013 with the idea that people who are normally priced out of the legal services market, usually entrepreneurs, small businesses, people who forego legal services until there's a big problem, needed a preventive legal solution they could actually afford. So I started this law firm with the idea of providing subscription-based and flat-fee legal services at affordable rates to people in that market.
Okay, yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah, I was looking on your website, and you look different from the normal law firm I see, different in a good way, but it says support your business with the power of a legal department at a fraction of the cost, and we're not a traditional law firm. We're something different, something new. Is there, with that in mind, is there anything you can add to what you told me just before?
Well, the thing that really distinguishes us from the average law firm, I think, is that our whole business model is based around avoiding the billable hour. You see, usually when people hire an attorney, they have to come up with a big retainer, and that money is put into a trust account, and it's billed against hourly.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to keep coming up with replenishments of that retainer. So your fee payments are very bursty. You come up with a few thousand here, and then a little bit later you come up with a few thousand more, usually as that retainer is depleted. Now, this has a lot of built-in negative incentives both for clients and for attorneys. Attorneys are encouraged to bill, hundreds or thousands of hours a year by their law firms, and that can lead to overwork. It can lead to people being burned out, leaving the legal profession altogether, developing substance abuse problems, marital problems. There are a lot of problems that are related to tying the pay that you receive strictly to the time that you spend in the office. You just spend way too much time there because you need to make money, because it costs a lot to run a law firm, and most lawyers have an extraordinary amount of legal education debt. So that's a big problem for attorneys. Now, for clients, the problems with the billable hour relate to what I've already mentioned somewhat. That their fees are very bursty. They have to keep coming out of pocket for large sums of money. But also it's unpredictable. If you're running a business, you're not going to hire an attorney up front before you perceive there to be a problem, even though the seeds of a problem may already have been planted. You're not going to hire an attorney at the beginning because you don't want to sign up for a cost that you may not be able to fully quantify. You may not be able to predict exactly how much it's going to cost you to hire that lawyer, because even though you've agreed to their rate, there's no limit on how much time that they can spend working for you. So the billable hour presents to clients an unknown quantity, something that's unpredictable. And businesses like for things to be predictable. They like to know what their costs are or what their costs are going to be before they decide to engage, with whatever the cost is ostensibly there to provide in terms of benefit. So we want to make sure that our clients are able to predict their costs as much as possible. So that's why we do everything on a flat fee or subscription, except for a few things here and there like litigation and that. Usually, the work that we do is transactional, it's preventive, it's designed to add real value to a client's business. And because that value is predictable, we want the cost to be predictable. So that's the goal. That's what really separates us from your average law firm. They will ask you for a big retainer. I was talking to a lawyer from a big law firm here in Nashville not too long ago. He said their standard retainer is $10,000, and he bills at hundreds of dollars an hour against that. Once it's depleted, then you have to come up with another $10,000 or cap it off or whatever. And what we would prefer to do is sit down and say, what are your needs right now? What do you need? What's foreseeable? Let's custom tailor a plan to meet your business's legal needs. And if it's an ongoing service that you need, we'll just set it up as a subscription. You pay a flat fee quarterly or annually, whatever, and you get the services that you need at the agreed upon price. It's very predictable. You know what you need to charge your customers for in order to break even or make a profit. And then if it's just a one-time job, it's a flat fee. I mean, that's the vast majority of what we do. Occasionally, we'll pick up a litigation client, and with litigation, it's so open-ended, you really don't know exactly how much work is going to be involved. It could be a little, it could be a lot, and you need the flexibility of billable hours for litigation most times. Even some litigation matters, however, can be taken on a flat fee or a contingent fee, and wherever that's feasible in those circumstances, we try to do that. That's really the approach to how we bill our clients, and how that benefits them in their business is the big key difference.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, I also noticed that you offer business formation services. So there are sole proprietorships, partnerships, LLCs, and corporations. Talk about each one. Why a person would want to do a sole proprietorship, for example.
Wow, well, that's a big question, Steve. That's a good question, but it really is a big one. In fact, I for the last 3 years, I've gone up to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, near Nashville, and basically pro bono offered my time to a workshop called Boots to Business. And in that workshop, I talked to soldiers who are retiring from the military and considering entrepreneurship as a post-military service career path. I talked to them for 90 minutes to 2 hours about that topic every single month, as I have, again, for the last 3 years or so. And we've also written a free ebook on our website answering that very question, because it's a big one. There's really no magic bullet. There's no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to big business organization types. So, which one is going to be right for anybody or why they might choose it is really going to be dependent upon the circumstances, the people involved. Sole proprietorships, I can say generally, are the lowest cost, easiest to operate. It's just one person, and there really is no difference between them and their business. Now, they may have employees, but with sole proprietorships, it's very, very important to have a contract between the sole proprietor and the employees, because at least in Tennessee, the definition of a partnership, and this is a good segue into partnerships, sure. The definition of a partnership is two or more people doing business together for profit. Now, you may notice there that there's no intent element required. It's just two or more people doing business together for profit. So if you have a sole proprietor and an employee and there's no contract, it's really hard to tell whether or not that employee is a partner in the business or just an employee. So you need to have well-drafted contracts between sole proprietors and their employees and other parties as well, like customers, vendors, suppliers, and such, just to make sure that there's no confusion about the relationship between those parties. Partnerships, at least general partnerships, because there are several kinds, but general partnerships, again, are two or more people doing business together for profit. You have a couple of limited partnership forms. So there's a limited partnership and the limited liability partnership, and those can limit the liability of the minority shareholders minority partners in the business, so that they're not responsible for all the debts of the business as you would normally have in a general partnership. Then there are LLCs, limited liability companies, that limit the responsibility, or rather the financial liability and the legal liability of the members in an LLC to their share of ownership and their capital contributions. And they can't lose more than they put into the business unless there's, illegal activity or gross misconduct or something like that, gross negligence. Then there may be some liability. I mean, LLCs are very, very flexible, and your operating agreement, which is the contract between all the members, is very key in an LLC. That's a very key document when you're doing business formation. You want to have that drafted by a lawyer, because it can further limit your liability and provide even more protection and flexibility than the revised Limited Liability Company Act, which has been adopted in many states, including Tennessee. And corporations, obviously, everyone's pretty familiar with a corporation. You've got your shareholders, your board of directors, your officers, and the shareholders own the company. The officers basically run the company at the direction of the board. The board meets regularly to make big picture decisions. The board is usually comprised of majority shareholders and other people, experts in that. Some people who are just experts in a certain area, maybe even be asked to sit on a board and give the board advice, and sometimes they're paid very large sums of money just to advise a board of directors, maybe attend a couple of board meetings a year and make a tidy sum. But because those people are very, very valuable, and they, at the end of the day, are most responsible for how that company is governed. So it's really the difference between the two. You kind of scale up from sole proprietors to corporations. Most people starting a business don't need a corporation. It's overkill. They're very unwieldy. They're very sluggish and slow moving, usually, to try to operate, unless you've got a very large operation, a lot of employees, a lot of capital, a lot of assets. You probably don't need a corporation. Most people go for the LLC format because it's the best aspects of a partnership combined with the best aspects of a corporation. And so that's a very, very popular format. But again, there is no one-size-fits-all, no magic bullet. There are different kinds of all of these entities. I alluded a bit to different kinds of partnerships, but there are also different kinds of LLCs. You've got the low-profit limited liability company, which is great for social entrepreneurship. You have series LLCs. You have professional limited liability companies for licensed professionals. And then with corporations, you have S corporations and C corporations and, nonprofit corporations, which can be an S or a C. So there's a lot of diversity in there. This is not a decision to make lightly. It's not one to just make a snap decision on. You need to do your homework, and most importantly, you need to talk to a lawyer about what's best for your business before you decide, and then let the lawyer craft the formation documents for you so that they're done correctly. If you go to our website, you'll notice that we have different packages available, and we don't just provide the documents. We don't just provide the business formation service. We also provide training and support, because it's not enough to have the organization built, essentially for you, or not for you, with you, to have this company's operating agreement drafted, for example, and their articles of organization, all the requisite documents filed with the state. That's not enough. You need that, but you also need some instruction, some training on how to use it properly, because it really can be complex, and it doesn't have to be difficult, but it is very involved. And if you're going to do something, you owe it to your future self to do it right, because otherwise you're going to look back and say, oh, past self, why did I not do this right in the first place? It's going to cost you so much more to try to cut corners in the beginning, make mistakes, and then have to pay to correct those mistakes later on down the road. The lower cost solution, even though it's really hard for people to see that in the beginning, the lower cost solution always is taking a preventive approach to your problems and not making those mistakes in the first place. And the best way to do that is to hire a good attorney who's got experience doing this sort of thing, who knows what to look for, knows what they're doing, and can give you some sound advice.
Excellent. Now, by the way, we've mentioned your website a couple of times. It's executivelp.com. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And I notice on your website there's a number of services that you offer: business tax planning, franchising services, equity crowdfunding, mergers and acquisitions. So there's a lot of things that you can help with. Noel, how do we reach you?
Well, you can just call me. I'm a very accessible person. My law firm is designed around accessibility to a client. There were really three. Actually, I should rewind a little bit. I'm also involved with the National Center for Preventive Law, National Center for Preventive Law at California Western School of Law. Mm-hmm. And a gentleman wrote a paper for that organization some time ago. He was asking, what's the matter with lawyers? Why don't people like lawyers? And it's because they're not accessible, they're not affordable, and they're not accountable. That was basically his takeaway. They're not accessible, they're not accountable, and they're not affordable. So our business model is designed to fix those three problems. We want to be affordable. We've talked a bit about that. We want to be accountable to our clients, which if you have researched our firm or if you look online, We're an A-plus Better Business Bureau rated firm. We have an excellent reputation for integrity. We've been nominated for the Better Business Bureau's Torch Award for Ethical Commerce every year that we've been in operation. We're very accountable to our clients, and part of that accountability, I think, ties in with the accessibility. We make ourselves extraordinarily accessible to our clients, and all of our attorneys, for each one of our clients, we give them our direct contact information with no gatekeepers. You don't have to wade through a bunch of support staff, receptionists, secretaries, paralegals to get to your lawyer. We're not going to hide from you. We're not going to look at your call when it comes in on our cell phone and say, yeah, I don't want to deal with that person right now. We're going to answer the phone. And so we start by giving out my cell phone number. My cell phone number is 615-669-6566. You can call that number anytime and be directly connected to me. And I am really proud of our firm's accessibility to our clients. It's a commitment that we have now and I hope to always have and maintain, even if we grow as I think we're going to and as we have already. If we continue that growth trajectory, I hope to be able to maintain that accessibility because I think it's really key to the relationship between attorney and client. So that's the best way to reach me. You can always email me as well. You can send a contact email through our website, which is super simple, or you can just send an email to me directly at nbagwell@executive-lp. So phone call, email. You can connect to us through social media. We've got plenty of that, and we're always responsive. So if you want to connect through Facebook or Twitter or even LinkedIn, that's totally fine, and we'll be here for you however you reach out to us.
Our guest today on Ask the Expert, Noel Bagwell with Executive Legal Professionals in Nashville. His website is executivelp.com, and I'd like to add there's a lot of good content on there in addition to being able to reach the firm. Noel, thanks very much.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Ask the Expert with Steve Sleeper. Join us next time as entrepreneurs and professionals share their intriguing stories of success and service.